public comment. We're gonna look at the minutes. We're gonna do some project update. We're gonna discuss the PER, 30% PER, and then we're gonna hear from Lynnette Claudon from the Department of Environmental Conservation. And then we'll do some really quick subgroup report outs. So with that, is there any public comment for items that are not on the agenda? Yeah.
I just want to note for the folks here and anyone listening that we received some wastewater comments today from Peter Mitchell by email. He'll be completing the wastewater study and the comments will be documented there. Just want to say out loud that we received those. We're going to incorporate those into what we learn as part of this overall study. Hopefully a lot of the questions that Peter raised about costs and where things would be located will be borne out, will be learned in the study. So just wanted to acknowledge Peter Mitchell's comments.
Thank you. Other public comment? There's no one else in the room, just for those of you who are wondering. All right, let's talk about the minutes from October 1st and November 10th. Anyone read them this time? Suspicion of that. How do you want to handle that? Okay.
Susan wanted me to pass along a comment.
Okay.
Susan read the minutes. In our November 10th meeting, we talked about archaeology and the change in policy that allowed archaeological test pitting to be done in the final design phase. This group decided to pursue it in the spring instead, and her question was a clarification. She thought that archaeology was not test pits, but a desktop exercise. My understanding is that it's both, but I wanted to check with the group and make sure that referring to test pits for archaeology in the minutes is what we want to do.
I didn't think it was test pits. I thought it was other types of digging similar to a test pit, but not like test pits. I thought it was.
I've been using that
right?
as a shorthand.
I can help with this if you want.
Sure.
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Yeah, Lynnette.
So it's confusing. There's two types of test pits. There is a archaeological test pit, which is a very prescriptive depth and size excavation that is done in order to determine if there are culturally significant artifacts in the soil, and that it's necessary and required by state law and federal law if there's either state or federal funding on a project. The Department of Environmental Conservation, to support the village ARPA projects, was able to get an MOU with the Vermont Department of Historic Preservation specific to the ARPA Village projects, which isn't you guys, but is relevant, and I'll get there. Relative to sort of the timing of the test pits and a best practice for being able to undertake that sort of activity at a time when we were only in a planning phase, when typically it would be completed for construction phase. So it got a little bit confusing for a lot of people really fast, because in order to do on-site wastewater, you have to dig a big test pit. And so the test pits that are required for soil testing for wastewater systems are really big backhoe test pits. And so I often will call the wastewater test pits a backhoe test pit, and the other test pit a phase one archaeological test pit. But in our MOA, our 2005 MOA with Vermont Department of Historic Preservation, the secretaries of both agencies work together to do an exemption now for feasibility level wastewater backhoe test pits. And so you can find that on the historic preservation subpage of our environmental review page for the Clean Water and Drinking Water State Revolving Funds.
So we should probably update, thank you. We should probably update our minutes to say phase 1 archaeological test pits, so they're not conflated with the larger backhoe test pits.
Did we talk about the fact that they may be able to conduct a desktop analysis before determining whether or not they even need to go out?
I don't think that was captured in the meeting notes, so we did discuss that and should add it.
I think that's great. I'm not sure I knew that much, but it sounds like that might be a possibility.
Okay. I'll update the meeting notes.
I think we should approve the minutes as amended.
Second, yep. Or I can make the motion.
For which
I
meeting?
don't care.
We have 2.
All those in favor say aye. Well,
Yeah, there we go. Aye.
aye. Yay.
All right.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Tom.
I wasn't present, so I'll abstain.
Is that like,
This is October 1st.
Both of them. Yeah. All right.
Well, I was not present on October 1st.
Okay, we are through the minutes. Project updates. Timeline sequence graphic. Oh, look at that. You got it up already.
So here we are. This is our grounding slide as we get underway. We are here. We're still in Q4 as we were last month. And we've gotten through the select board approval of the loan application. We just talked about test pits and archaeology. I maybe need to adjust this. We had put test pits and archaeology together. I changed this too quickly. Archaeology is going to happen in early 2026, but test pits happened last week. So I need to have 2 markers on that row. We've received the 30% PER. We expect the 60% PER by the end of December. Hope we can discuss it at the January meeting. And nothing else on this slide has changed. I want to just reiterate for anyone who may be watching this later, the line that says possible bond vote options. That is not something we are driving toward. Those are simply places when votes happen in town. The study needs to be complete. The community needs to make decisions. This is not an inevitability. So that's where we are in our timeline. Any questions about that?
Thank you. For the select board liaison report, I don't have anything particularly notable to share. We've been bringing information that has come out of this committee to the select board. The select board remains hopeful and optimistic and supportive of everything that we're doing. Obviously, they approved the PER expenditure, which was covered at the last meeting. So I can't think of anything else to add to that.
Thank you.
Questions?
you want to do the slides or are you gonna do that later?
You're next.
You.
You're next. Any questions for Eric before we move on?
Oops, I jumped the gun. Sorry. Yeah.
Are there any, are you getting a lot of questions from your fellow select board members?
No.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
they seem to be comfortable with Peter and I, being part of this, and so, yeah,
Great.
Are you getting any responses to your front porch forum?
0. I've got enough.
I guess it's good.
I'd love to know if someone's reading it.
Yeah.
I've read it. Thank you. You also helped write it, so.
I've heard that there have been some subsequent posts where people maybe didn't see your initial one and are saying, what's going on at the middle school?
I did see that.
So maybe we
Yeah.
can talk later about some strategy.
I got confused over which one that was in. Was that in the Jericho one or the Underhill one? Because it said Underhill at the top, and does Underhill have their own? They must, right?
Yeah, it was. I saw it in the Jericho one.
It was in the Jericho one? Okay, I didn't know. I saw somebody send me a picture of it, so I guess maybe I haven't been as religious about reading it.
Let's think about that a little later.
I should have replied to that with my initial power.
I think you still could, and I think we'll talk a little bit more in a minute about the test pits, but there's some updated information that we have about when those are gonna be cleaned up.
So maybe we'll.
So that might be a nice
do
follow-up.
post.
Yeah. I don't want to steal your thunder, Justin. I don't want to steal your thunder on the test pit section of this meeting, so I
Okay, now we're moving on.
think so.
Okay,
Yeah, we're starting out with that picture. I mean, so I do test pits a lot, a few times a week, when it's not snowing. When you're working on somebody, when we're digging when I'm digging test pits for the client assumes the risk, assumes the mess. We're digging on somebody else's property. Bigger deal, so my immediate thought when I got on site was just thinking, well, is there a mechanism to clean this up? Because what happens with these test pits, you can't normally like prepare them and expect there not to be a problem later on if you do it right away, because they settle, especially with the groundwater that they were digging into. And all that material that's spread, that came out of the hole, because it's not directly over the hole, that hole's gonna be lower when it's all done. So it isn't just raking, seeding and mulching. It may be, like they said, Kay said the guy took his tractor. That's probably one of the better things, is to take a blade from a tractor and pull the material back. And hopefully there's still topsoil there, because the excavator brought a massive machine, and he tried to separate it, but did the best he could. So I just think a lot of attention ought to be paid to this till the grass is back. That we give them all the attention that's necessary to tell them, so they understand that you're not going to know we were there when we're done, or when it grows back, because test pits are prone to little sinkholes, and kids are running there. You can easily break a leg, so it's a big deal. So that was my concern walking away from the site. So, but I was there for 3 test pits. I had my own test pits to go to after that, and I wasn't going to stick around for 14 of them. So, the first 2 were, if you're in the back Browns River parking lot, facing the river. They did one closest to the parking lot, one toward the river, and then they went counterclockwise. So I was there for the first 1, 2, 3. And as I expected, the better pits were toward the river and the river corridor, which we don't know we can use yet. So, I don't know if you want to pull up if you have those pictures or not, but.
So
Yeah,
I labeled them and they're in order 1, 2, 3.
Perfect, thank you.
Ah,
That was what I mean, just getting it. That's the guy that works for Du Bois King. I'll say he's a jack of all trades. They give him responsibilities doing lots of different things. And part of it is test pits. He's not just a test pit guy. So, my thoughts were, and I don't know who showed up later, but a project of this magnitude, anybody on a project of this magnitude would have either a soil scientist there or a hydrogeologist. They may have had a hydrogeologist show up later, because they have to do hydrogeologic calculations of a system that size. So the hydrogeologist needs to see the soil. So I don't know who showed up after the 3 pits. I'm just hoping they did. That's all I'm saying.
I'll interject that Andy Hoke,
He did show up.
he came either before or after. I'm not sure he saw the pits. I know
He was filming them as he was going, so nobody was there. So that's the 3 that I were there. So that was just a concern.
Okay.
I mean, in the end, they own it, but I can't stress this enough. This is what this whole process is all about, is the soil. Without suitable soil and a suitable site, we have nothing here. We have there's no project happening. So this is absolutely critical that you do the best you can at it. So I'm hoping that's the case. The soils that I saw and witnessed in the 3 pits were mixed. The first pit, closest to the parking lot, high water table, lots of evidence of high water table. Second pit, getting toward the river, got better,
There's
Yeah.
your second one.
So, yeah, test pit 2 on the far left, that was one closest to the river. all the pits basically had water in the bottom. And high water is usually in April, May. So you have to pay attention.
Especially after the summer.
Yeah, I mean, you have to pay attention. So I don't want to get into the weeds too much here, but when you're dealing with highly permeable soil, he knows. And you see staining in it, you have to study the site. Why is there staining here? Is the relic, is the staining relic? Is it from prior years flooding from years ago? Some of it, yes. But when there's water in the pit, you know that water is coming up and down in it. How much, we don't know.
Did you see models?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
These models.
We're supposed to call it redoxamorphic features. That's a scientific term, but he was calling them models.
Is that MOTTLES?
Yeah, just,
Okay.
yeah.
Can you tell us what we're looking at? I think you look at this and each one of those tells you a full story, and I just see 3 pictures of dirt.
Right. So you can see that the test pit, two, closest to the river, that's gravelly. He was calling it coarse sand. I call it very coarse sand. Gravelly, very gravelly, very coarse sand or coarse sand, whatever you want to call it. They call it a beam horizon above it. It's like a natural overburden above it, which is that where you see the teeth marks of the machine.
In the middle.
That was a good pit, but I don't know how much they have to work with.
So do you see 3 layers in that slide?
Well, there's the organic layer on top, and then there's the suborganic, which is the bead horizon below it. Then there's the gravel, which is, that's river deposits.
Yeah.
And then the far right, that's the bottom of the pit. That's where the water was coming in. So that's what the water does. It's a chemical reaction, iron oxidation. And so you don't just have that on the bottom. In some of the pits, it's all the way up the sides. So there's a lot's going on in that field over the years, decades.
So do you come away from this feeling hopeful or skeptical or?
It's what I thought is the best soil is the river corridor, closest to the river. And I didn't stake for the ones in front of the school, but if you drive by the school in front of Brownsburg Middle School, you can see there's a wetland.
Mm-hmm.
There's water sitting there,
Yeah.
and they're doing test pits below that water level, 100 feet away. If it's gravel, it's going to be saturated. So I don't know what they came up with, but I don't even need to do test pits to know there's a potential issue with it.
Are you ready for the next slide?
Yeah.
Test pit 3.
Yeah.
I have a question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Was anybody from the DEC?
That was the other question I had. They said there was somebody coming. I know the guy that covers the area, and then somebody said there was 2 people from there.
Let me look that up.
Evan Bowman does the
Get those names.
the Jericho.
Maybe Nate Kai and Ashwak Valley?
Gonna make sure I get it right. Ashwak, yes, and Evan Bowman.
Okay, great, thanks.
So that picture right there is the 3rd pit in the river corridor. Below that, I had a nice well-drained gravel horizon. Below that, water, with the staining at the bottom. But the reason I took a picture of that is because that's not native fill. See all the staining in it? Groundwater gets trapped within that above the gravel. That layer these are soccer fields. They've been dozed, they've been leveled, they've been filled. That's what that is.
When you say staining, do you mean the orange stripes?
Yeah.
And what are
That's a
those?
saturated zone right there.
What are those orange stripes?
Those are the redoxamorphic features, more commonly known as models, which is a chemical reaction from saturated soil conditions.
Is that saturated soil conditions affecting metals in the soil that are releasing oxidization? Okay.
And yeah, it's not really an issue depending on how thick that was, because beneath that is well-drained gravel with no water table in it. But below that, you've got water. So you've got this, you've got your what I call your overburden, then you got your gravel, and then you got water. How much do you have in between left?
How much to tape?
For a conventional wastewater system, you have to have 3 feet to the seasonal water table. So you can quickly lose all that depth. And if they have to do groundwater monitoring analysis, it might be less than that with 64.99 a day. So
we're,
my whole point being is that this isn't a slam dunk. It's far from a slam dunk. And I'm sure the pits on the road, on the other side of the school are probably much more marginal. So it's going to be the river corridor as far as this parcel is concerned. It just, my God,
So what do we need to do to find out if we can use that or not?
that's the next PER. So,
yeah, so the 60% PER is going to be in December instead of November because our engineers wanted to make sure they had time to analyze and incorporate the results of the test pitting
Okay.
into their analysis. So that's what we're going to be learning.
that's the big deal. The next one is,
Yeah.
is the big deal. Yeah.
But how am I trying to ask this question? What I thought I heard at a previous meeting, we don't know if we're allowed to, and I don't know who makes those
River
rules.
corridor, yeah.
That-
Who
That's what
makes that determination?
When you say out loud, do you mean that we can even put a septic field that
Right.
close to
In a
the
river,
That's
no, in
Yeah.
the river corridor.
in the river?
Let's catch Lynnette up and she might be able to answer this question. It's come up a couple
50.
times. It's come up about the feasibility and allowability of putting a system within the river corridor in general, and I mean especially from an Act 250 perspective. Are septics are these systems disallowed in river corridors?
So it's a little bit more complex than that. First, I would ask if it was in the floodplain and floodway.
I think it's out of the floodplain, I believe. I think
The good part you're talking about.
I don't have that map up, but I think it's probably just out of it. Yeah.
Okay. So relative to federal funding, we are asking that critical infrastructure, which this would be out of the 500-year floodplain.
No, 500 here.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything else.
No.
500, truly.
Something comments.
Yeah.
What?
I don't think that's in the
500
wastewater
max.
regulations yet.
It's not in
So
the
I mean that
state
is
water
something
reg.
that we can talk about. I don't um relative
Does
to
state
river corridors, they're currently under a rulemaking process, and so I don't know where they will go with that rulemaking process. But generally speaking, they have been discouraging of new investments in places where it's in the river corridor. So it would be better to sort of ask Rebecca Pfeiffer, where she thinks that's going.
Yeah, and when you say discouraging, that doesn't sound to me like a hard no. It just sounds like it's
Right.
the wording makes it sound like a preference.
So right
Well,
now there's
sounds
not a
like it's
rule.
funding related.
Yeah.
sounds like
Right
it's
now
two
there's
different.
not a rule. And so right now there's like a policy preference. Once there's a rule, it will be more clear about what you are
Yeah.
and aren't allowed to do.
All right. Well, that is something we'll just have to wait.
My experience talking to other engineers going through Act 250, Act 250 is a hard no.
Run
And
river corridors.
Towns that have adopted the FHRC rules,
Mhm.
like Huntington,
Mhm.
they're trying to do a project in the village like we're doing, and it's a hard no. Because they've adopted those rules. And
Yeah, the flood hazard and river corridor.
Andy thought he might be able to make a case, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll get to this, but we've reviewed the 30% PER. Maybe something we can flag as they move into the 60% is the specific. Just let them know we have specific questions about this environmental constraint. We want to see that discussed.
For my own, what's a river corridor? How many feet from the river is it?
It varies. It's pretty good, but it goes halfway up that field. So I'm looking at the floodplain maps right now. The floodplain is not going to be an issue, I don't believe, at all.
Even the 500
or
year.
even the 500.
Oh, that's
I'm looking at the 500, apparently that's a deep section of the river.
So these are some things we can certainly flag and have flagged for John. We talked about it with the engineering subgroup, but when I'm giving him feedback on the 30%, we'll say that we want a little more discussion of this issue, even though if, as Lynnette said, there's some uncertainty around it.
Yeah, we can't go through the design process and then submit it and say, and then wait, and then get a no.
Yeah, yeah. So we're talking about that now. That's really good. It's uncertain, but it's good to know where the uncertainty is. All right, is there another slide on the test pits? Lots of.
Oh, look at the
Pretty one. We're ending with the pretty one. One of the things I want to emphasize, it's been on each slide, but as far as the remediation, D&K said they're getting someone out this week to stabilize the disturbed areas. I assume that means to deal with some of the subsiding. And then in the spring, we will have the areas seeded and mulched to meet the surrounding areas. The test pits will be remediated, and town and RPC staff will monitor this closely. So if you get any questions from the public, that's the order of operation.
That particular requirement is above and beyond your typical thing that anybody does, but they cover it. So
In our contract, so that's good for us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that was the first test pit. That's up high.
It's a what?
That's above that was above the, that's native, I believe, soil, and, I agreed with, their soil guy that this was relic. And it's not necessarily indicative of the water table now, based on what I saw in the rest of the pit, but I reminded him that you don't get to decide that. The state says if you see that, it's a water table. So, and the only way around it is to do groundwater monitoring, but he's not gonna use that pit. Per the discussion I had, so.
Can you literally walk through what is, it looks like there's one,
You want to stand up and point at it for us?
3
Special?
layers here. I'm just trying
That's an area just like this.
and
Here.
and
That's
it's
just sediment. You can see there's like fine, silty fine sand, and then there's like a coarse sand layer. So you have,
The silty fine sands?
yeah, you have water bearing gravel, so to speak, through those little layers. So, but this is the stuff that, you know,
But you think this is native?
we're not native relic, meaning that's not.
No, but
This soil,
didn't
yeah.
you say the soil is native?
I didn't pay too much attention whether it was native. I thought it was native, but I just know you have to study.
They didn't fill, like some of the fields didn't have to be filled, I guess.
Exactly.
Okay.
But you look at, that field was not flat when they built the
Right.
soccer field. Yeah. They cut some, they filled some. So
can you define native versus relic?
that's two different things.
So relic means
Yeah.
that is indicated one time of water. Relic means it's not necessarily anymore. But what he's saying is the state doesn't really care. The native is not pushed in.
So it's undisturbed.
That undisturbed original ground is native soil.
Got it.
But when we're talking relic, meaning these stains may have formed 200 years ago. And
Got
you
it.
know what's really interesting is I was on a project where they did an archaeological dig, and they can identify floods by the year. They can say this flooded on 1810 or something.
It's like the tree rings.
It's amazing. I mean, we found top of fence post 5 feet down
Wow.
from the 1800s.
Neat.
You know,
Very neat.
that's what they look at when they, yeah.
Well, good. Well, thanks for being there and thanks for walking us through it. Spend a little time with soils.
I just have a follow-up question, because I've heard, well, I think I've heard or seen chatter in the community about this, how safe it is to build leach field next to the river. I assume that from a design point.
We're allowed to build a leach field in floodplain.
Right, but I'm just thinking about some comments about, oh, why would you put it so close to the river? Right, and I assume that when it's built, it's not an issue with the river, it wouldn't ever affect the river.
Yeah, I mean, I designed one in Richmond at the end of Dugway Road, and it turned out it was an oxbow. You know, if you know what an oxbow is, it's a beautiful field, topsoil this deep, beautiful gravel. And then the landowner's been there years. He says, I think this is gonna disappear over time. And it did. They lost, we surveyed it over a period of time, over 15 years, and he lost like 50 feet of to the Huntington River every 5 years.
Yeah.
And we had to redo it all. So
So that's the risk.
what the river
The
corridor.
risk is that it erodes away, your pipes are exposed and you gotta redo it.
That's what the river corridor is trying to stress is that, yeah, you're not in the floodplain, but you might have gravelly soil and the river might decide to take a different route and we're not gonna let you change it. So, yeah.
Well,
Was that question like purely from the erosion standpoint, or was it also from the water quality standpoint?
I think it was.
We don't know.
Yeah,
People would just, I'd like to ask questions.
I would say erosion is your biggest concern and then if you're, but we're supposed to maintain 50 feet, but that's not always, it depends. Yeah.
So depending on the proposed size of the system, if the system's permitted under the indirect discharge rules, there is in that permit program requirements for water quality testing both before the project and after the project for monitoring. And it's been a very demonstrated successful program in terms of protecting water quality in nearby receiving waters.
I'll say the orange border on the slide really brings out the iron and the.
Yeah, I think they did that.
scale. Yeah.
Like they did that. Would you be willing to do a front porch forum post just with kind of an update on the test pits and how they'll be fixed? You can use the language from that slide if you want to. I think it'll be posted.
I think it would be good to just assure everyone, absolutely assured that they won't know we were there come June. That there won't be any holes, the grass will be up everywhere, I mean, that's.
it'll be flatter than the rest of the fields.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Do that.
Next, all right. I'll just give a quick update on the status of our CWSRF loan application. So it's been submitted. It's where it needs to be. It's at its last step. It's at the Vermont Bond Bank. We're just waiting for them to finalize their approval process and notify us that it's all been settled. We've been told it'll be this week for the last 3 weeks, so we might want to give them a call and see where we are with that.
Chris S. will follow up.
Yes. Another update I have on the municipal planning grant application to do the development scenarios and fiscal analysis. This is the same slide that I used before, so there's no new information on it on the slide, but I am going to the select board tomorrow night to present an opportunity for us to do contracting for assuming we get, well, whether we get the grant or whether we're using town money to do the study, and we decided to go forward with it. CCRPC has offered to do procurement through their process. They have a list of pre-approved consultants. In fact, we have mentioned this before. So we will need to, if we go that route, we'll need to have an MOU signed between the town and CCRPC that outlines what that whole process is. So I'll be going to the select board tomorrow night to present that idea. We will not have an MOU to sign yet. We still need to work out some details on that. The town attorney has asked us to look at a few things which we are doing. So we will be following up with that once those issues have been resolved.
Westbrook did a similar study if you're interested in getting a copy to help with your scoping.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. I will.
Did Westford?
Westbrook.
Westbrook, great.
Yep.
That makes more sense. Thanks.
All right, next update is also mine. So the survey for potential users in Riverside went out the day before Thanksgiving. So we sent out 184 surveys. We've already gotten 10 back. So most of them are going directly to Du Bois and King. I did get one dropped off here at Town Hall this morning, which I scanned and sent down there. So they are consolidating all of that. You can see on the image on the right on the screen, the dark red line is the boundary where we collected all the addresses to send out. Within that red line, you can see there's a red area with the hatched lines. The hatched lines represent the quarter-mile boundary outside the village center that through state definitions, can be considered to be part of a village center for getting services and things like that. So the pink area or the lighter color within that thick red line is the Riverside Underhill Flats Village Center, and then that hatched area is that 0.25 area outside that is also eligible. So we sent the survey to all of the residents, to all properties that touched within those boundaries. And the surveys are due back December 15th. It's not like we won't accept any after that, but that is the deadline that we're shooting for. My understanding, ideally we'll get like a 20 to 30% return rate. That's a standard. It's a good return rate when you have a targeted survey like this. So hopefully we will hit that mark.
How many addresses is it?
184.
And then it's also been put out on Front Porch Forum and some other places so that people can connect with the digital survey. So we may get some others.
Yep, and I did get an email from business Jolly's, just letting me know that they are very much in support of this and would like to stay involved. And so that was great to get a positive support email. Not that there's any competition in terms of just getting email response.
Yeah.
So that's that. Oh, and I guess this. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to say something on that?
Yeah, just regarding that area of ineligibility, some of the other villages, Waitsfield specifically, we've talked about sort of going back to the designation process and seeing if there's any potential for a neighborhood designation for some of these adjacent areas.
Yeah, and I think those legacy neighborhood designations, they're sunsetting. The neighborhood development area designation is sunsetting, maybe even on like December 15th, if I'm remembering correctly. And those areas, in lieu of the state designation process, those are going to be mapped through the Act 181 future land use mapping process at the regional level. So a lot of those maps are defining centers and neighborhoods that are actually a little bit bigger than the previous designation programs delineated. So that it might have a similar effect to going out and getting a neighborhood development area designation. And I would have to look at Jericho's map to compare and contrast. But
We did.
You're in it.
Yeah, we did do that. At least if I'm understanding what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
We did when we were defining this boundary with Du Bois and King. We did look at the Act 181, the new future land use map designation, and making sure that it aligned with what's in the town plan for our village center and village designation, and making sure that we were getting the right area for sending the mailing.
Yeah.
Is that what you were saying?
I think it is.
Okay.
Yes.
That's encouraging. Thank you.
Yeah. Talk about Act 181 all day long and bury that. Maybe that could be another meeting.
I think this is my last update. It's just a stakeholder outreach update. So in terms of Mount Mansfield Union Unified School District, I also went over to the site after the day I couldn't get over the day that they were being dug. I went the day after. I was really bothered by the state of the field. So you said, oh, you're using those first two images that came up on the screen. It's because when I was over there taking pictures, I was taking pictures of like, oh my gosh, this is a problem that needs to be addressed.
Right.
So I didn't have any good pictures. They were all like pictures of things that needed to be addressed. So we reached out to ED. We also reached out to Phil Granding early on to say, hey, we know this is an issue, and we're on top of it, and we're getting it addressed. So we wanted to make sure that we knew that we were
Like
taking.
one of the school board members today that you got it covered.
Great.
He's an engineer too, and I told him he knew we were working on it, so.
Thank you.
Don't worry.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. I came back here and I was really unhappy about that. So that's going on with that. And then in terms of just continuing the dialogue with the town of Underhill, we're still waiting to hear back from them on our offer to have someone from Underhill participate on our task force. I haven't heard anything back yet. Yeah,
I think they're meeting. It made it to their this week select board meeting, which might be the same day as ours.
Thursday.
It might be. I think.
Yeah.
I thought I remember them saying the fourth. Is when they were going to talk about it. So.
And we've also just been, as part of the ongoing communication, making sure that they have the right information. So we have clarified with them that there are no disposal sites being considered that are in Underhill. That was something that I think that had come up as part of some of their discussions. We confirmed with them that all of Browns River Middle School, all of that site is within Jericho. There was some thought that some of that might be in Underhill. We verified with them that we are not looking for any sort of a financial contribution for what we're doing, that this is our study that we're taking on ourselves, and we want to coordinate with them as much as that they are interested in coordinating with us. So we sort of have those discussions and just want to make sure we're maintaining communication with them.
Thank you for doing that. Next up on the agenda is discuss the 30% PER. Tom.
Okay, this is preliminary engineering report, otherwise known as facilities plan. Typical milestones are 30%, 60%, 90%. I was employed by the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation, and I reviewed this type of report for communities all over the state for 23 years. This project is different from anything that I reviewed during that time because it's tied to a housing goal. I retired 11 years ago. I don't know in that time if there have been other studies tied to housing, but it's going to be really critical to coordinate between our housing study and the PER. This 30% bottom of page D only it looks at just generalized population projections, and that's typical if there's no specific housing goals. But in this case, the project is kind of focused on housing. I did look at the grant application for the housing study, and it does say that the housing study report will be addended to the PER, and that's going to be a critical element. The PER is really not going to be meaningful without close coordination with the housing study. Our engineering subcommittee did review the report. We had a few detailed comments, really not a lot. It's pretty early in the process. We'll know a lot more at the 60% when we have discussion of the test beds. But yeah, you got to have that housing data tied in with.
Because that will tell us housing goal potential use.
There's the planning grant application mentions 3 different housing scenarios. Each one may have a different capacity need.
We brought that up in the beginning, that these 6,499 gallon a day systems all translate into X number of units.
Yeah, so it's gonna be kind of,
Until we get that 60% report, well, I don't know how much design will be done, but get a feel for how many 64.99 gallon systems divided by, I think it's 210 per house.
a
30 houses, something like that per system. Per units. That's just generic way of putting it.
I wonder if I can make a couple other comments. The Jericho Underhill Water District is a separate municipality.
Can we do a little more on the
Sure.
PER before? Well, no, this ties right in. This ties right in. I'm sorry. Please go ahead. Sorry.
So JUWP is a separate municipality. It extends into partly to Jericho, partly to Underhill. They have their own billing infrastructure. They have operating staff, plenty of experience operating the utility, which the town of Jericho does not. You know, so I would recommend that we maintain close communication with the representative from the water district as well as the town. That's just my personal recommendation, as well as the town of Underhill.
How many people are on that?
They have a board of trustees. I
How many people are served by that? It's
think it's about 300 users.
and that's their water supplier, basically.
Yes, they have groundwater water source. People have 2 storage tanks, and they serve parts of Jericho and part of Underhill. But they are, I mean, they might be potentially, if we develop a municipal system, maybe they could be an inquiry as to whether they need to operate a municipal wastewater system.
Gotcha.
I haven't been able to find the charter. I did look at their website last night, and they do publish their regulations and fees, but I could not find the charter for the water district. I'm sure we can get that, but it's, you know, because we basically have 3, well, Village of Jericho, which is another water utility, that's another municipality. They are affiliated with Champlain Water District. Jericho Underhill is independent. They are not affiliated with Champlain Water District.
Yeah.
And then there's Foothills is a separate, I believe it's a
Foothills
separate fire district.
Yeah, I used to live in the foothills. That's its own 78 users that are part
But
of
a
that.
fire
water.
district is a municipality also.
I wonder if maybe a next step there could be a sit down with the leadership there and just let them know what we're up to, kind of
Yeah.
like we've been doing with the Ethan Allen Firing Range and the school district and others who are proximate and potentially interested.
So I guess I'm advocating for, you know, build communication
Okay.
early.
Well, Tatro did.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Rick Hammond did. That's, you know, because he said they had 400,000 gallons excess capacity or something like that.
And this is the water district that goes out Packard Road.
So that is the Village of Jericho. It's
North side of the bridge on the Browns River, where it crosses the Browns River.
Yeah, Jericho Underhill, which is
Exactly.
basically the riverside and the flats,
Right.
is separate. They're not tied.
The Jericho Corners one goes.
Jericho
up.
Corners is physically tied to Champlain Water District. Champlain Water operates it. They're really part of Champlain Water, but Jericho Underhill is completely independent.
Yeah, just for the record, 10 years, I think it's 10 years ago, the firm that Joe Flynn works for surveyed
Mhm.
the entire system, or created a plan showing all the water mains, all the shutoffs to every single house in that
For
district.
JUWD.
Yeah, so there's good data there. I don't know if it's in a database or anything, but there's plans. I got the rolls right now, but it's helpful, but.
I wonder if I can make another related comment. Figure 6 of the PER shows about 14 private wells within the service area or within the study area, on the Riverside study area. If we don't already have this information, it'd be really useful to know how many of those private wells are still in active use versus abandoned.
And how many of those wells that showed up on the map are actually in that area, because those things are way off.
Those maps are terrible.
Oh.
Terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
once-
a big old disclaimer on the ANR Natural Resources
I
website.
worked on a
Yeah.
project once where, well, location shown in state mapping is like 4 lots away from.
Oh,
the
yeah,
actual
different
site.
towns.
It's crazy, yeah.
So you gotta do field verification.
It's like an intern project.
Wow.
I think they had, I think the flood damage, the Irene flood damage may have played a role also.
Moving those few lots over. Did others have a chance to review it and have any comments on the 30% PER?
I did not review it.
It looked like there were lots of blank sections,
There
like
are lots of blank sections, which makes it easy to read. You know, I've been a little daunted by some of these studies. The feasibility study, I've read a lot of it. But I found that this 30% PER was kind of was a bite. That's all in progress, right?
It's highlighted blue.
Yeah.
Future.
Yeah. But the parts that are written already, it's maybe 30 pages, 40 pages of text, and then a bunch of diagrams and figures. And for me, it was a really good reorientation to the site, the need, and all of that. So if you do have a chance to read it, you might find it worth your while.
Does it cover the potential sites? I know we're focused on the school, but then but I keep hearing that there are other sites.
It lays out the 3 scenarios from the feasibility study: scenario 0, the do nothing scenario; scenario 1, which is Browns River Middle School plus a site on Raceway Road; and then scenario 2, which is all disposal sites on the middle school property.
that's what you're asking about.
So it does talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
Some other sites.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a lot of information that was already in the feasibility study that was the basis for the PER.
Yes. But excerpt it out.
So far, it's
Potential
really kind of
disposal
carry
sites.
over from the feasibility.
You're right. It's mostly carryover from feasibility, but it was bite-sized chunks, so that made it helpful for me.
Yeah, there's a map showing, well, this is actually from the feasibility study, showing some large parcels
Right, as potential
Other than-
disposal sites.
other than Browns River.
If folks have a chance to read that in the next week and want to let me know of any comments that jump out, I'm gonna write some feedback to D&K, incorporating Tom's feedback. The things that I'm gonna be commenting on have to do a little more with framing. For example, making very clear that when we mention Underhill, there is not an expectation or an inevitability, but it's a local choice. We want to be really clear about that. I also want to make sure to get in there upfront how the select board has made decisions about this and the fact that we're taking a phased approach. That's mentioned on page 17 or something, but I want to see it upfront. So there's some presentation pieces that, even though it's an engineering report, it's a communication document, and I want to
It's the
tinker with it.
only show in town when it comes to,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's the type of feedback I'll be providing, all based on things we've talked about.
When do we think we would know about the viability of the middle school soils?
The 60% PER that we get by the end of December is supposed to incorporate the results of the test pits.
I'm feeling nervous about that.
The results don't
Super nervous about it, and what makes me nervous about it is that the engineering team is nervous about it, right? I don't
I don't know
about-
that we heard the engineering team say that. Oh, the engineering subgroup.
I'm not nervous about it. I'm just saying there's gonna be, it's not a slam dunk. You've got river corridor,
That makes me.
you've got high water.
That's plenty to make me nervous.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, next item.
Well, right, like, I mean,
It's encouraging to see that there are other potential sites,
Right.
that actually from a soil map standpoint.
Was there anything about the test pits that you saw that was positive?
yeah, yes, but it's a river corridor.
I said river corridor.
With Lynnette,
But I wasn't there for all 14, but I know they didn't get better on the other side of the school, but I knew from the get-go, river corridor is gonna be the best soil. And there might be an angle where they can do that, so. It's a big area.
Lynette trying to jump in. Lynette, were you trying to jump?
Yeah, if you don't mind. I just wanted to sort of bump Tom's comments about the cooperation with the village or the water district, as the case may be, because if there are opportunities to organize this utility differently, there may also be different bonding opportunities available, which could be advantageous for the effort.
We're looking for grant opportunities. That's what we're really looking for.
Free money.
Understand? Yeah.
But that's a good point. I wouldn't have thought of that.
And I would imagine that the JUWD board has equal representation from Jericho and Underhill. How do we know how that's set up, or is that part of what we don't know?
That's part of what we don't have. I mean, we need to find a chart.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we're definitely in the brainstorming phase, not assuming anything and not expecting anything, but having ideas. This is the time to do it.
Is Peter's house served by that? He'd know.
Probably.
I would assume, right?
I don't know what you would know about the governance structure of the.
Or knows where he sends the checks. Yeah. So that's a quite good place to start.
But I have, I mean, the building information, what's missing, that's not on their website is their chart. Because that would kind of set the scope of.
But you would have a copy
They
of
set
it as
it
a
up to
number,
do-
right?
Well, we can keep digging. Keep digging.
I'll ask.
Probably recorded,
I'm sure he was probably given
It's a finding.
Right. I mean, you
So I just realized that Susan submitted a comment about the PER. I can get that in when we're ready. We're still talking about it. She noted that kind of what we're talking about. Scenario 1 would rely on a private parcel on Raceway. The report lists some challenges there, but she also sort of says, what's the opportunity cost of using that Raceway site for wastewater instead of additional village uses like housing? Is that the highest or best use of the land? And if that's a reasonable question, should it be included in the list of challenges, the trade-offs? I thought that was maybe worth noting in the PER, the challenge. Everything's about the opportunity cost and the trade-offs, right? So.
I'd also made a comment about highest and best use of the land within the triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And I think some of those spaces, are open space associated with the development.
Okay. I also wanted to represent a comment from Joe, who's not able to attend tonight. Joe wondered if it would be useful to document in the PER what the town of Jericho has spent on the PER, so that we know what the obligation would be to pay back should the project not advance. And I wondered if anyone had.
we've been pretty public about that.
We have.
And in the select board meetings. Yeah, it's 25 grand a year, basically, right? For 4 years. So maybe 23 and a half. I forget the exact math, but it's something
I don't know,
like
like 18 or 19 that you.
Yeah.
92 divided by 4, right? Because there's no interest.
So
For
do you feel like we should put that in the PER itself, even if that might be a little unconventional?
No.
Others?
So the PER format does contain some sections where you can address that type of thing, because the different alternatives do sort of go through like what are the potential financial and cost implications. So you could address it through that lens.
When we have that timeline, we have pulled together of the building the record of the select boards, which we can refer to for the, if we want to include, pull from that to fill in some of the holes in the intro, the PER part. It gives a little more context.
Okay. Does anyone have a yes, no, or neutral position on the inclusion? Just want to make sure I get Joe's point across since he's not here. Can do this.
I would have said no to his phase 2. I'm not just saying it because he's not here. I just think that ship has sailed.
Made the decision.
Let's not.
But is Joe suggesting that it just state
Did it just be plunked in there somewhere?
that it's just a fact?
Yep.
I don't feel strongly one way or the other. I guess I would tend to defer to our select board representative because he's on the front lines of money with the town. But I don't feel strongly either way.
I don't mind talking about like. Can we just talk about whether we include it in the 100%? Who cares about the 60%, right?
Oh, well, the 60% is just on the way to 100%.
Right.
It doesn't matter when we put it in there. But
So we can
okay.
talk about it when we have more of a full board.
All right.
Sure.
We'll talk about it more
And
later.
then the wording makes all the difference too, so.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Font size.
color italics. All right, well, thanks. I think I've fully vetted that comment from our absent colleague. Thanks thanks for presenting on the PER.
Yeah, thanks.
It's like probably like riding a bike, right?
Okay, now finally getting to our guest, Lynnette Claudon. What do you got for us? Good
Hey,
news for tonight.
We got you all warmed up with our usual discussion, lively discussion. I hope that was useful, and thank you for sitting through with us.
yeah, no problem. So, I guess I'll start with like who I am. So I'm Lynnette Claudon. I'm the Senior Water Infrastructure Program Engineer for the Water Investment Division at the Department of Environmental Conservation. And the roles changed a little since Tom left us, but it's fundamentally a large component of the role is still doing peer review of engineering documents, planning and design documents. We also coordinate between the town and the department and the department and the town. Sometimes I explain it like being a little bit of a double agent. So like getting to be Natasha and Rocky at the same time. So if
I would
you know,
agree with that, I'm sure.
so if you're having a problem with a specific wetlands issue or getting the attention from someone, I can literally go talk to them and say, hey, Jericho's waiting to hear back from you. Can you help prioritize this? Or when can they hope to hear back from you? So we do a lot of that sort of coordination work in our role. I also wear a lot of hats, so I've been sort of leading the Village Wastewater Initiative for the department as an interagency committee, working with the folks at ACCD and some of the other um, agencies, and so that's my role. My role in reviewing wastewater studies is really at the peer review level. So the when I'm doing a review, I will be reviewing against what other villages are also doing and considering in a way that helps to inform communities what options are available that maybe their engineer didn't think about or they didn't think about. Similar to the commentary that I've been, participating in this meeting with. Um, so uh, for your second question, at what points do communities interact with DEC as part of their studies? It sort of depends on how much the community wants to interact with DEC. So I am available to go to meetings at your request if you want, or I can also wait and just go to your milestone meetings for like the 30, 60, 90% review. My job is a lot easier if I understand what your decision-making process is and what is valuable to your community and how your community communicates and what the overall goals and values of your community are.
So can I pause right there? So what you're saying is you're willing and even would appreciate being part of all of these wastewater task force meetings,
I can't commit to all, but I try
but
to,
having a like an invite and making some, and if you
yeah,
can't make,
yeah.
I mean,
And if definitely if there's something that you guys are hung up on and it would be helpful for me to attend, I'm really happy to attend, even if it's briefly.
I mean, there are people in this room that are a lot more experienced than me, but even though I know a lot more than I did 2 years ago, I still feel completely lost in all this. So I think having any kind of person around that's dealt with other towns and like you had like 16 good comments already, I guess is my point. Which so I think we would like, I'd like to hear from the task force, but I think I would love to have you have a standing invitation and you join whenever you possibly can. Anyone else disagree with that? I know it's weird to disagree with her on the phone, but
No, I mean, I would welcome all the help we can get.
yeah.
I don't take it personally if you do disagree with me. I know that I the relationships that I develop with the communities, I try and make sure that it's really clear that this program is voluntary and that I just want each community to know that there is support available if and when they need it.
Yeah. I think one thing we're looking for tonight, I assume you're prepared for though, is funding options for this thing. Like what money is available to help us through this? And I want to ask the question in a way that we talked about a little bit yesterday is my assumption from the select board and the select board initiating in this and doing all these studies is that we could get this system built with a large portion of it being funded by grants of one form or another, and not the bulk of it, like more than 50% coming from bonding that the town would eventually have to pay for. Is that assumption somewhat accurate?
My official answer is I'm not sure. And so I will expound on that. One of the hats that I wear is as the Clean Watersheds Needs Survey Coordinator for the state of Vermont, which means that on a somewhat regular basis, whenever Congress actually appropriates money to re-perform the study, that I am responsible for reaching out to the towns and collecting the reporting, feasibility studies, preliminary engineering reports that each town is generating regarding all of their water quality needs, stormwater, wastewater, running the full gamut, and to determine, what sort of costs each town has been able to identify as having a need, a capital need, and then reporting that into EPA's database. So there's some good news and bad news with that. At a national level, it's been, 50 years since the Clean Water Act and the federal grant days. So a lot of the infrastructure in the clean water world is nearing the end of its useful life. That means that there's a lot of capital need across the board with Vermont's different wastewater infrastructure. So balancing, what the communities with existing wastewater infrastructure have as needs and the needs that exist within, Vermont's housing crisis and the wastewater needs associated with that and the various village efforts. The work that you guys are doing to help support your village and address this is so critically important. And there's not at this point today like a dedicated grant funding source that's like in the pipeline, but they've basically asked me to continue to go out and develop these studies and get people and communities engaged and involved so that they're ready to go when there is money available. So, for example, when the ARPA funding became available, the Vermont legislature appropriated, I think it's 32 million that we've been able to make awards on to get different village projects up off the ground. And some of, you know, the grant percentage for most of those communities is higher than 50%. In terms of what they've seen was necessary to be cost effective in having affordable user rates for both a project and a sustainable utility. So I have to have faith, and I ask you to take a leap of faith that as as the money becomes available, we have to be ready to take action. So I don't know if
Yeah.
I try and be as
Thanks,
much
Jeff.
of a realist as possible. And
I appreciate realism. Where I get where I start to get nervous about it is when we start to come up on this. I forget the name of the next phase, the design phase. That's going to be significantly more money than the PER. I forget the number, but it was around 500 or 600,000.
We could test that with Lynnette. I don't remember the exact number. I feel like Wakefield's final design was maybe 400.
yeah, I don't
but
I remember
remember.
ours was 5.
I don't know what the
That was
ballpark.
in the feasibility study.
But let's
Significantly
say
more.
let's say it's $500,000. I don't want to spend $500,000 if we think that there's no more. Right, I don't want to spend $500,000 of something to design something that we can't afford to build.
And that's completely understandable. So there are some funding grant opportunities that are available. So the Northern Borders Regional Commission is probably the best grant opportunity right now for different wastewater projects.
For final design or for construction?
So you can apply to them for either. The only sort of issue with Northern Borders for just final design would be that they have a very rigid procurement process. So you would have to go out for procurement again for your engineer after you had an award.
Is the Borders Regional Planning Commission like, it's not a regional planning commission like?
It's regional, but the region is the northeastern United States. Yeah, right. So it's kind of northern forest, but it's most of Vermont.
I think at this point
York
it's all of
to Maine.
Vermont. Yeah,
Yeah. And it goes over to Maine, like it's Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, right?
I think
The-
so. Yeah.
Federal agency?
Yes.
Federal agency.
Is it an independent agency or is it part of Interior?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
There is a contact at ACCD that's like the lead Vermont contact for NBRC, and that's Christy Farnham.
Right.
So she's the best person to ask all of these questions to. I'm mostly familiar with the NBRC grant process because DEC received a grant from them that we used to sort of pilot some of these village wastewater efforts, and we worked with Wilka and East and West Burke for those.
That's a follow-up that we can put on our list, is to talk with Christy Farnham or other folks at Northern Borders.
A lot of information on the website.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Eric?
Yeah.
So we do have a Village Wastewater Initiative website that does have a number of resources available. So it has a whole funding table in it that details different funding opportunities. And we try and update that if we ever learn about anything new. I think your initial study was the first one to identify having the potential funding from a military base, which I thought was really fantastic that you guys were able to find a new funding source. Um,
I do remember that.
yeah,
I remember some of the optimism and skepticism around both of them, around that. Like, it could be really cool, but it also could be hard to get, is what I vaguely remember. And I remember some of the other sources, but I
um,
just want to hear about a lot of funding options. And I understand well, what I understand, especially what we talked about yesterday, it's really hard to say for sure right now, or even 2 years from now, exactly what the funding might look like, right? Because it's going to be user fees, it's going to be some grants, it's going to be some bonding and whatever. And um, but to me, if there's like it's a cut and dry. If there's no grant available, we just can't do it. Even if we got immediately access to chip and whatever, right? There's just no based on the numbers that came out of the original study. There's just no way that this town can absorb $22 million.
yeah.
Were you going to mention CHIP, Tom?
I was gonna talk about Chuck.
Good, good. Remember what that stands for, the Community Housing and Infrastructure Program?
It's also not 22 million
The first
for the first phase.
The first phase, right, which I forget how much the first phase is, and I think that's what this PR is
We're
gonna
gonna
tell us,
learn.
is gonna tell what the first phase is, but I'm assuming it's a quarter of it. Or
Or a third or
ish, something
Yeah.
like that, right? Which is
So
also, yeah, out of
it,
scope.
historically, there's also been loan and grant combinations from USDA Rural Development. Right now is not a really great time for USDA Rural Development. They've lost most of the staff that supported Vermont. Unfortunately, they do have some contacts if you do want to reach out to them. As part of this PER process, we do work really hard to queue you up so that you are eligible to go to USDA RD. Um, they do have some income limitations. So depending on your service area and what your current MHI is, USDA RD can only provide grant funding to communities that have an MHI that's under the statewide average. But they can do loans to pretty much anybody. Um, and both they and EPA and with the SRF programs allow for income studies. Right now, the groups that do income studies are sort of overtaxed from a capacity standpoint. But being able to have a income study that's specific to your service area helps to dial in on some of those affordability based grants.
At our last meeting, John Kiernan was our guest from RCAP.
Great.
He's one of, I think, the overburdened providers of income studies, but that was one of the things that we talked about with him as a possible future service.
Yeah. The Clean Water State Revolving Fund does have subsidy in our federal capitalization grant, and the use of that subsidy changes every year. So there, the village wastewater had been subsidized at 100% for quite a while. Unfortunately, early this spring, we lost a number of staff in our group, including our special village wastewater hire. And we are just now in a place where we are hopefully getting staff back up. We just finished interviews for 2 positions. So fingers crossed we will be able to be in a stronger place for the new year and the next cycle. So I can't say that won't come back, but I can't say it will come back either. So um, if it's definitely something that we can talk about, but even that was limited to, I think, 125,000 in the past. So
Does the 100% versus 50% subsidy, is that related to DEC's capacity? So it's a capacity issue? Are the two linked?
Yes.
So it's about administering the dollars and being able to process the deliverables and stuff like that.
It's more that they will not limit the number of projects that we take.
Okay.
So currently I have 177 projects.
177?
Yes, and between 5 positions, 2 of which are vacant.
Gosh. That puts it in perspective. Thank you for saying that. I'm sorry that that's the workload, but that's very, very helpful to hear.
Yeah. Back when it was just Tom and me, we maybe had 25 or 30.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. What other questions do we have for Lynnette?
What's the best path for this committee to understand all of our all of our options, right? Like I want to apply for every single possible thing as many times as we can with as best written grant up writing that we can do. Like what's and I know we're not going to qualify for anything low income. So like I don't think it's worth wasting our time for there. And the reason that we don't have low income is because we don't have infrastructure to allow affordable housing to be built. So we'll never get there without it. So it's almost like it's almost backwards, right? Like unless you could prove that, it seems to me like you should be able to prove that it is impossible for us to build anything where somebody of lower income could live without something like this. And to me, it's like, yeah, because
Right.
the only option here is single families, which means typically means their own septic system. And that adds 50 grand to the cost of everything. So anyway, so what's your answer to the best, like, what's your advice to a committee of people that has a few experts, but mostly novices on funding these things? Like, what would you suggest that we do? Because to me, that's the most important thing.
So I think you're doing everything right in terms of, keeping your mind open and knowing that you have to put in the effort to apply for everything that's out there. Most of the villages have very complex funding stacks, with multiple funders involved.
And at what stage do these applications happen at? I mean, is it well into the design stage that we start doing that, or is it beforehand, or how does that work?
A little bit depends on the funding agency. USDA RD prefers to get in with a community and get them to sign a funding agreement immediately after the preliminary engineering report. This can be disadvantageous because they require the bonding up front. So if the project slides in schedule or if you have easement or land issues, that can be difficult. They also don't fund design. So if, the funding of the design is really critical to the success of your project, um, it might be better to just wait before any funding commitments are made. Um, they also want to know how much grant you're going to get in advance, and none of the other funding agencies can commit to grants in advance like that on construction, often because of the procurement issues that we discussed already. So um, it does get really tricky. But I've worked with a lot of communities to sort of create those funding stacks and strategize around it. So, just having regular communication with your funding partners, I think, is important.
That's been kind of on our ongoing to-do list in the funding and financing subgroup. And I thought that was something that could wait a little bit, but this conversation makes me think that if not December, then certainly January, we get in touch with Christy Farnham at the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, and we start reaching out to the congressional delegations field folks to let them know we might be interested in congressionally directed spending, or just kind of start planting the seed, talking it up. I think that might be worthwhile. And those are contacts that between the people in this room and the people on the screen, those are contacts we have.
Yeah, so if you want to invite me to that subcommittee, I can go into more detail and maybe go into some scenarios with other communities' funding stacks so you can kind of dig in and see what they're doing.
Yeah, that'd be
Sign
great.
up for everything.
Yeah. We have our next subcommittee meeting scheduled yet?
I think we do.
Yeah, right.
I'll make a note to find when that meeting is and let Lynnette know
Okay.
about it. It would be, I think, like on a Monday at 3 or something like that. So I'll send that along. We have a standing meeting. We can always reschedule it
Yeah, we could be
to
flexible.
accommodate.
That time is often free for me, so
Okay. Yeah, I'll set up while we're sitting here and while we're
sooner or
chatting.
later it would work out. Yeah.
Okay.
Lynette, you had said that you are available for us to check with you at any time, which is just great. But I'm wondering, based on your experience, if there are certain critical points in the process where we really should be checking in with you.
I think whenever you feel stuck, like, so there's the ones that are required, right? Like the 30, 60, 90 final, but then there's like whenever you're stuck. So we also have some open office hours every 2 weeks. I don't know if I have you guys on that list, but I can add you to the list if you guys want to be. Maybe send me a list of the emails of people who'd like to be on that invite, and you know,
Would you send her at least the finance committee better, maybe, or maybe the whole task force, I guess, but
Sure.
definitely the finance committee, I think. If it's related to how to best position yourself to get these grants, then I think that group would definitely be.
Yeah, do your open office hours have topics, or is it literally just open office hour and drop in?
but so currently I haven't had time to like organize around topics. I would like to get there when we have enough staff, but right now it's just drop in and answer questions.
That's great.
And I've dropped in only a couple times so far, but when I have, it's been helpful. Even when I've arrived without questions, I've come up with questions.
Your office.
It's on Zoom.
Oh.
Yeah,
But we all have to go to office now,
we don't have.
days a week.
Right. They're online office hours. And I've also found it valuable. There have been sometimes that there have been engineers there who are working on different projects and they're at a different stage asking different questions. And it's kind of a window into the future that's helpful. So, yeah.
I get the sense that each community is so different. And the issues, there's so many variables throughout, not just funding, but throughout the process, that it's really hard to define a typical process with typical check-in points.
Yes, I agree with you.
Right. That's helpful to them.
But with that understanding, what I work with best is examples. Waitsfield did it with this and this, and St. Johnsbury, whatever, right? Like understanding that we might not qualify for any of the ones that they got or whatever, but like that really helps me. Like, okay, cool. They took out a
Yeah.
loan, they have user fees, they have this, and okay, that's how their package went. And then here's a different one, and just understanding starts to wrap my head around it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think you did actually. You probably, when you came to the select board to talk to us, I think around the time that we got the 100%, or maybe we're at the 90% of the previous whatever. I think you might have had a little bit of that, so I might have it somewhere in this electronic
Yeah,
world.
I like to do an onboarding presentation that sort of goes through what different communities have done and their funding packages and how the rates work out. It's a little stale at this point, and maybe I've already done it for you guys. I'm sorry, I can't remember.
Maybe we could do a little of that at you could pick the least stale examples. We could look at them at the Funding and Financing Committee. I just sent an invitation. It's for January 5th is our next meeting. So that's the first day many people are back from vacation, which I apologize for, but
that should be fine.
have our meeting.
I don't
So
think I have anything booked that far out.
I'm feeling, after our review of the test pits and your description of the current state of grants, this has not been a meeting that's filled me with optimism. Can you, maybe,
Fix that.
well, would you maybe say that, don't worry about it, all projects go through these swings and it's all gonna work out?
How you worded that, because I'm sitting here thinking like, I know that the select board needs to like, if we wanted to fail it, like all I need to do is be a pessimist and be like, oh, this and that. I'm trying not to be that way, but I also want to be real and hearing engineering concerns and hearing financial concerns. What else is there?
Right.
This is where it all begins.
I know.
This is where it all begins and tells you what your challenges are and like, do we need to go to other sites? You gotta start making decisions.
Yeah. And I've got to say, in a matter of just 3 or 4 weeks, we're gonna know a lot more. So we're feeling very uncertain tonight. But I expect that in 3 or 4 weeks.
This is a different
We're gonna know
process.
more.
In my world, test pits are the very first thing you do, but because
Yeah.
it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of go backwards, but you don't have any choice.
So we're gonna live with uncertainty for another month.
Yeah,
And then we're gonna live with different uncertainty after that. But we're at least gonna start.
All right.
Increasing our
So Fana needs to bring us a bunch of.
Bunch of money and dirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Levels.
Yes.
If it helps to sort of frame the efforts going forward, especially if you are looking at those WW permit size systems, the 6,499 gallons per day. When you're looking at solutions and alternatives, it's okay for the recommendation at the end of the report to say that you'd like to actually mix and match. So like if you found a couple sites that might be suitable, maybe the recommendation is to pursue all of those sites, but slowly.
I just follow that. So you're saying if I shut that thing down, but there was like a bunch of potential sites. So what you're saying is you could do a little bit in this potential site A and a little bit in B and a little bit in C. Is that kind of what you're saying?
And you could do it at year X and then year X plus 7 and then year.
It sounds like it's
Well, that's what-
enforcing our phased-in approach idea.
Right. That's what this phased in approach is doing, and it's feeling the lack of optimism that Chris spoke of. It's what I'm feeling for just phase one. Like we already took the whole thing and said, I think a better way to do it is to break it into phases. And that was the first time that I felt like, oh, that actually is doable. Go tackle this first one, build some success, get some connections. And then, okay, then we do phase 2 and then 3, and then we build the whole thing out that way. But now this phase 1 is feeling.
No.
We don't know yet.
I don't think that's true. I'm just, but having a full build out, is the thought of having a full build out right from the get go. That's super optimistic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But a 64.99 gallon system might fit perfectly. You might get 2 of them in there. I don't know yet.
Yeah.
But that means something, and it'll just mean if you get one of these, okay, your focus area, who you want to connect, might be this group of houses or whatever, this area.
Yeah.
I feel like we need
I
some.
think you might change directions a couple times.
Yeah, I feel like we need some selective tunnel vision to keep us sort of focused
You'll have it
moving
soon.
forward and not
Yeah.
worried too much about.
Blind optimism.
There's too many what ifs right now until
Yeah.
you have, there's no detail. This is just all what if.
But
I'm just gonna say, like, the goal for startup of chip availability is year 26. There'll probably be some startup issues with that program. But it's a major new option that is coming, I think, at a good time because of the uncertainty of
Yeah,
state and federal funding.
I should have included that in the select board update, but I'll include it in our subgroup engineering update, but we are scheduling a learning session, if you want to call it, education session for the select board on chip. What's it about? Where can we use it? We're certainly thinking that that is a very likely vehicle for this project, but also to learn about what other projects in town it could be considered for, and which ones it won't, and wouldn't be a good fit for, which ones it will, that type of thing. So absolutely, chip is on our radar at the select board anyway.
I guess if I could ask one more question, Lynette, based on what you've observed tonight, is there anything you have questions for us about or any feedback you have for us?
No, I think you guys are doing a great job. Just keep it up. Don't get too down on things. It's always it's always it's always a hard type of effort to get through.
That's what you want.
That's what I want.
That's the word you. Always darkest before the dawn, Chris. Okay, thank you so much, Lynnette.
Yes, thank you.
And yes, please feel free to come to any of our meetings and correct us. Or if you're really bored and you're looking through our minutes and you see us doing something that doesn't make sense or that we could do better, we have thick skins. Please let us know.
All right. Well, thank you. It goes both ways.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Thanks.
next is the subgroup report outs. Outreach I have first.
I'm going to do outreach today. Susan and Peter are absent. They're on the outreach subgroup. So that group's been pretty busy. Leading up, having the test pits happen was a good push to beef up the communications. The way we did that is drafted a summary of the preliminary engineering report process that included some information about the test pits, put it on the task force website, and referenced it in the front porch forum post. So that was good. Right now, with the transition over to the new Jericho website host, we still just have the task force website, but the intention is to have a wastewater study website of wit and then link to the task force website from there. That text is being drafted. The group has worked a lot on it. I think the ball's in my court, and Lynnette has also graciously offered to take a quick look and look for red or orange flags on that, as she did for the PER, which is or PER summary, which is incredibly helpful. We're also developing an FAQ. It's about 10 or 12 questions, kind of 1 or 2 pages. These documents all have a lot of common language, so they're coming together nicely. But I think that's the next phase for outreach. We talked about front porch forum post about the test pits. We also talked about the upcoming meeting, the town meeting reimagined meeting on January 20th, where people will come together and talk about the budget. And Chris is working on getting a table there, and then we're also pulling together materials for that. That idea actually came out of the funding and financing work group, but it's an outreach thing, and good thing Susan's on both subgroups. So we're going to work on those materials because that seems like an important point to be in touch with the public. Forgetting anything in the outreach?
The only thing I would say is when we do have the table at the January 20th town meeting reimagine, we will need people to stand at the table. So if you are around, that'd be great.
I can do some of that.
Great. Thanks. Well, I have.
Engineering? Giving them all.
You heard what I had to say.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add than that yesterday.
And you're feeling the same way Justin just said, like this is some of these roadblocks are
I
normal.
think we can work through these.
Again, I'll clarify, it's just not, like you want to use the term slam dunk, but
Yeah,
it's a challenge, it's a challenge, right from the get-go.
Yeah.
They all are.
Yeah.
It would be nice if there was just no obstacles whatsoever, but
Yeah.
there's always some.
Yep.
Uh,
and I suppose that's why if there are no obstacles, you don't set up a task force, you don't have to, right? Like you don't have to put all this work behind it to.
I'm guessing that the critical question will be whether or not river corridor is gonna be. an issue.
That's what it sounds like.
It could all come down to that.
Okay.
And remind me again,
Ground servers, maybe not the only option either.
who decides the river corridor?
It's mapped.
There you go. There's just a map.
It's mapped.
But who decides whether we can
Right.
work in there is
Right.
where it gets a little gray.
Yeah, there's some mush in there now because there are rules under development aiming for 2028, I think, is when those rules are supposed to be adopted to implement a new statewide, state level river corridor regulation program. We do not have that right now outside of Act 250.
Yeah.
Which is a permitting
If they hold the same restrictions they have now, there won't be much development in Vermont going forward. It'll be severely restricted, just so you know. Because I work in the river corridor all the time in towns that don't have the rules.
Yeah.
So
So
it's a challenging state to work in.
Rebecca Pfeiffer's a resource that Lynnette mentioned. I could follow up with her. She's watershed manager. I forget her title, but
There's a river corridor guy, I forgot. his
basin
name.
planner.
No, I think she's the floodplain program
Yeah,
manager.
there's a river corridor guy.
Thank you, floodplain manager Rebecca Pfeiffer is who I'm thinking of. She's a regional one, or used to be regional, Northwest. Anyway,
Finance and funding meeting, we met yesterday. Like I said, we talked through getting the CHIP education session scheduled for the select board, so we're gonna work on that. What else did we talk about?
we talked about the outreach at the January 20th meeting.
Yep. What else? Yeah, that was most.
It was a full hour, but
I know, I mean,
We were busy.
just yesterday.
We talked about the need for thinking about when to look at the fees and governing structure.
yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And the timing for that.
And I think that's where I kind of formulated the idea of, for me anyway, having that helpful, like what other towns look like and what their mix looks like and their fees. And
Right.
not to copy them, but to just make me start asking, oh, could we do that here? Why that would work or wouldn't just help.
Yeah, I think we concluded that near the end of the PER, we should be thinking about governance structure and getting sort of those discussions going. And then the fees discussion really comes at a later phase, like
Right.
where it's too early to have those discussions.
But not too early to think about the structure.
Right. Yeah. And that related back to the handy timeline that we got, or it's a timeline that we have somewhere that queued up different tabs at different phases.
Yeah.
That was from John Kiernan at RCAP. So it's in the presentation from our last meeting. If you need to find it, want to find it.
I don't
That's
know
all
if
we
this would be helpful for you or not, but we last January had worked with the technical municipal technical assistance program through VCLT, and we developed a sort of activity for the committees to do to look at some of those requirements for organizing around the utility, and that's available as like sort of looks a little bit like Chutes and Ladders, but it's available on the village website.
I showed it to them yesterday.
Oh, good.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, we were talking in a very linear way, and I said, "Hold on a second."
Yeah.
I have a
Now
different-
I was just gonna go look it up. I forgot.
The whole thing, the other thing, the whole thing looked like Lollipop Swamp or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is that reminder that it is a system. It's interconnected. You pull one string and another unravels or tightens. Yeah, maybe that is an exercise when we're all feeling a little more
Jolly.
jolly.
Yes.
That could be our Christmas party, is to do that exercise with red and green dots.
Your one positive email was from Jolly, so.
Yeah, so that's what I'm taking away from it.
There you go.
Right.
It's a sign.
Yeah. Okay, any last comments, questions? All right, we'll see everyone in January.
Yes.
In January.
Thank you, Lynnette.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Everybody who attended, thank you, Michael.